Hi folks, my name is Matt Granger. I'm a travel and portrait photographer, and this is my go-to photo gear for bird and travel photography. I've been a full-time photographer for the past 15 years or so, making my living running photo workshops, leading photo tours, and teaching via my 2 online schools. And I spend a good amount of the year on the road, whether it's doing portrait shoots on location or running photo tours to exotic parts of the world. I just got back from leading a bird migration tour in Iceland, so I thought I would run you through my must-have equipment for bird and travel photography. First up is my favorite lens for bird photography, the 400-2.8 TC. It's optically just brilliant. It's so much lighter than the previous ones. I love that you've got the built-in TC that taking you from a 400-2.8 to a 560 f4 that you can just flick on and off with minimal degradation in image quality. Drop-in rear filters. It's just brilliant. If you're doing a combination of birds and other wildlife and people, the 400's great. If you're only doing birds, a lot of people will go for the 600 or 800. Next up is my Z9. My favorite camera at the moment. I own a pair of these. I also own a Z8, but for travel and especially for birds, I prefer using the Z9 for several reasons. First of all, I love that you can shoot it in full silent. You can of course do that on the Z8 as well because they don't have a mechanical shutter. But what this has that the Z8 doesn't, this has built-in GPS, so all my images are geotagged out of the box. It uses dual CF Express Type B cards, so no messing around with 2 different card formats, and the SD is a real bottleneck for speed. And I love the overall build quality of this. It's got a much better battery, so you're able to shoot all day, crazy amounts, photos and video, and it's really pretty difficult to exhaust a battery on this guy. And the other thing, the big body on this means heat management is just perfect. I can shoot with this in the desert all day and it doesn't overheat, whereas the Z8 does overheat sometimes just doing video on an overcast day. So for reliability and speed, this is my go-to. High resolution and high speed means you need a lot of fast cards. So I tend to travel with 10 terabytes of CF Express Type B cards. I'll have like 2 single terabyte cards in each of the cameras, so that's 4 terabytes already. And of course you want redundancy and you want spares. So there is a big variation in terms of the speed you get from different cards and which ones overheat, that kind of thing. But none of them overheat to a point that it's a problem on the Z9. It's just a matter of having enough capacity. That said, for my recent 14-day trip to Iceland with my guests, I took thousands and thousands of images and lots of 4K, 120 and 8K video. And I think in total I only made about 3 terabytes of data. So not terrible by my scale. So a lot of cards though when you're on the road. Next up is gloves and spare gloves. I always seem to lose gloves when I'm traveling, so I tend to travel with more than 1 pair. This combo has worked really well for me recently. I use a pair of kind of woolen woven gloves. These are actually ones that came free with a drone I bought. They're DJI gloves. The fingertips work really well for smart screens and you can use them as an inside layer. But these gloves, which may be my best purchase in Iceland, everything's so expensive there, but these are like kind of gloves for working in the garden or something, but they are lined, they don't have touch support, and they're pretty weather sealed. That said, I was shooting in Iceland, had this amazing opportunity to shoot puffins, and it was in the driving wind and rain, and then it turned to heavy snow, and these did actually soak through. So to prevent my inner gloves getting wet and my hands freezing to death, I pinched some of these like nitrate gloves off the cleaning trolley at my hotel so I can wear them as an in-between layer. These on my hand, nitrate over the top, and then the external ones so my hands stay warm and dry. And you want to make sure they fit you well. If they're too loose or too padded, then you can't operate all the little buttons on your camera. Next up, whilst I have some crazy travel gear for like when we go to Mongolia and it's minus 30 or 40 degrees, generally you want layers. So rather than one giant jacket that will cover you for the whole trip, having 3 or 4 different layers that you can open and close some zippers to modulate your temperature as you're going from your 4-wheel drive into the sun, into the rain, whatever, that's the way to do it. Now, I recently went on a shopping rampage when I was in Las Vegas at North Face at the outlet because everything was 75% off. Got a bunch of stuff that I thought was going to be great, but of all of them, the best piece I picked up was this one. It's from their Techwear line. I'll pop a link to it below. It's quilted on the inside. It's not that warm, but if you have other layers on, it holds the warmth really well. It's got pockets, it's got a hood, and for something so thin, it really works well as a windbreaker as well. So I found myself wearing this when I was in the city just with jeans and a t-shirt, and when I was out in the snow as one of my 4 layers. It worked great, and I think it looks really nice as well. And at 75% off, can't complain. Next up is hats. Now, these are kind of becoming my signature, the Kangol hats. Keeping your head warm like your hands is really important when you're in challenging conditions. I have a few different Kangol hats, partly different colors, just for different looks, but they have different functions. They're all the same style, but I have one that's got lots of ventilation to use here in Hong Kong when it's really hot. This one, which is an everyday one. This one, which is a bit thicker for colder conditions, and then one that's full merino wool, which is great for being in Iceland. It's basically like wearing a beanie, but it still gives you a little bit of sun protection from your eyes, and it's still my kind of look. And best thing about these, I then don't need to worry about hairbrushes and stuff because I can hide all of the mess under the hat and kind of look nice and presentable for camera. Next up is a monopod. Now, I have a video coming live soon or already live testing out a bunch of different monopods. I've worked with monopods for years, but I wanted to see what were the best ones because this space is changing all the time. Using the 400mm lens, it is relatively light compared to what they were a few years ago. But if you're shooting all day without support, you find that your hand gets wobbly and you need to go to faster and faster shutter speeds, which means higher and higher ISOs, which degrades your images. So a good quality monopod with a good quality head is a really great option. So a sturdy monopod with a swivel head that takes the weight of your gear is a great option for travel. Next up, filters. Now, I personally don't use protection or UV filters. I think they're a total waste of time. I don't want to get into an argument about that now, but for me, I don't use them. But there are things that I think are better to get right in the field rather than, I would rather spend half an hour longer getting the shot right in camera rather than spending half an hour editing it to fix things that I could have gotten right in camera. And there are just things that are better done in camera anyway, like if you're dealing with reflections, using a CPL. If you want a longer shutter speed, using an ND filter. So these case ones I was traveling with, a lot of my guests kept pinching them from me because they wanted to test them out too. I think everyone's basically gonna go buy a set after this last trip. They're magnetic, so handy when you're using gloves to not have to be screwing them in and out all the time. And there's lots of magnetic ones out there now. Case actually pioneered them, and their magnetic attachment actually screws inside the filter thread of your lens. So the first one sits flush with the front of your lens so it doesn't add an extra distance. So you can get more of them on before you start to see vignetting. As well as all of the usual stuff, they also have the option for a magnetic lens cap, so you can have them kind of closed off and just pull that off at the last minute, so then you're not getting, water drops on your filter, that kind of thing. Really handy, and as I say, I would personally rather spend the extra time shooting than fixing things in post. Every photographer should be traveling with tape. I have regularly traveled with this, whether it's for portraits and we want to just like tape up the curtains or that kind of thing without damaging the paint. I got this one in Iceland. It's super thin and sticks really well and re-adheres really well. Unfortunately, I managed to break the car door off my camera whilst I was on my last trip. So I used this tape to tape it down and hold it in place so that I wasn't getting water coming into my camera, and it worked great. I didn't have any issues and the tape held everything in place as it should. I tend to keep a piece of it on my monopod or tripod leg, so then if you need it, you've got a few inches there that you can just peel off to use, and otherwise it's there and you hardly even notice it. Next up is these lens wipes. Not really an exciting product, but something that I honestly use every single day in studio or on the road. They're from Zeiss. They come in this big pack of 220. They're really inexpensive. They're single use. If you wear glasses, then they're really helpful for that as well. They're also basically alcohol on a wipe, so if you cut your hand and, like I often do, graze my elbow or something, you can use it to clean up a wound. You can also use it to basically clean your hands. It acts as like a hand sterilizer. And of course you can actually clean your lenses with them as well. We have them tucked in every one of the camera bags and in each of the rooms in the studio for quick access for any kind of job that we're doing. Next up, snacks. I will always have some snacks tucked away in a bag. Long shooting days, sometimes missing meals. I like to carry shelf-stable chicken breasts, dried meat or fish like a jerky, and dried fruit. Quick energy fix on the go, and then you don't have to, for example, walk away from whatever you're shooting just because it's lunchtime. Somewhat unrelated to photography, but something that I like to travel with are watches. I'm kind of into mechanical wristwatches, so my normal daily is a GMT that shows 2 different time zones so wherever I am in the world, I can monitor a second one, although my smartphone does that anyway. I just like how it looks. The other one is just one that I think is pretty, kind of wearing it more as jewelry. This is a new Toledano and Chan watch with a lapis lazuli dial. But then I do just have an Apple smartwatch as well to monitor sleep and elevation and get weather updates and all of that kind of thing. Also, so you can check notifications without having to get your phone out of your pocket or take your gloves off. Lucky last, camera straps. Now, I've been using Black Rapid straps for probably 12 or 15 years now. I really like using them. I find them really comfortable. There's loads of different options out there, to be honest though, and they're all better than just using the around your neck strap that the cameras come with. Having something that will let you get quick access to changing between equipment, let you support the weight across your shoulders rather than around your neck, is going to make a big difference on a long travel. I also got the chance to use the QD quick attachment points that I think came from hunting technology that lets you plug straight in and out of different tripod plates. So then it's a really fast system. You don't need to keep changing plates. I'll be updating all of my equipment after my last trip to use those QD attachments. They seem really great, and I think you can get those from Pro Media Gear and a couple of other brands as well. So those are my go-to items for travel and bird photography. We'll have links to all of them in the description below. This is the first of a new series where I'm going to be getting all kinds of photographers in to share their equipment with you. Let me know who you'd like to see in the series, and you can check out the link tree below to see details of all of my travel, where I'm going for workshops and tours, as well as details on my photography websites. Thanks folks, I'll see you soon.